me try to explain this. If she is really into something,
like hyper focused,
yes,
on something.
Sometimes, I'm part of it, and we will do things together. Other times, she is so hyper focused that I need to step back myself and say, she's doing her thing, and check in and let her just. I just have to let her cook, to borrow a term from
Yeah.
Breaking Bad.
Well, I like that. Yeah.
But literally, I have to let her it's not any fixed thing. Like a few weeks ago, we were having company over and we were working on cleaning the house and getting the house ready. And I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to start working in the kitchen. And she's like, I'm going to tackle the playroom. And if I stepped foot in that playroom for the next 3 hours, it was, I got this, go do something else. And it's not
malicious. Yeah.
It's not harsh. It's not even negative. It's just, this is my thing. This is my space. So I stood in the kitchen in the doorway and I said, hey, you good? You need anything? No? Cool. And I went back and started cleaning more in the kitchen.
What happens when I am broken from a deep hyper focus? Because this is an important question, because sometimes it has to happen. But what can happen sometimes if I'm very heavily focused on something and I get pulled away from it?
It's not good. It's not good. I'm not going to go into detail, but
it's
well, I mean, just
it's where the giant child comes out.
Yes, it's like taking your kid's favorite toy away.
I can relate to that.
But, yeah, I think we all can relate to it, but it's much harder for her in the moment to logically think like, oh, okay, I need to stop doing this. And so you have to brace yourself for that. I don't want to call it a tantrum, but
well, it kind of is.
It kind of is.
It's it can be almost like its own sort of panic attack.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because the brain's so set on, I'm doing this feels good. I'm doing this feels good. And then yoink, and it's like, what the heck? Mm-hmm. Which is not the word I would say, but
it's like you're in the middle of something and the power goes out, and you're like, where was it?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But what's amazing is, and it really just in talking with you, but also just kind of things that we've talked about before, Katie, is it seems like the two of you, what really works for both of you, is Swank's understanding of that, your understanding of it, and it seems like, I mean, that's what a partnership should be: is understanding each other, letting each other cook, but also being understanding too. Kitty, do you find sometimes that you that there's things that it's hard to explain to Swank some of the things you're going through, or has he learned? You feel like he knows you so well that you almost have an unspoken kind of rapport?
Most of the time, he gets it. It hasn't come without a lot of work because, and we might be able to get into this.
You're human.
The whole reason I got diagnosed is because of Swank, because he saw the symptoms in me. But we kind of have a system. I have tells for when things might be going sideways, and he knows kind of how to derail that. And I've also taught myself ways to kind of just take a moment. It's okay. Everything's going to be fine. And through the years, at least for me, I feel like we've gotten better and better at communicating and him understanding. But even still to this day, if there's something I've been trying to explain to him and I can't, I can usually find something on TikTok or Instagram that explains it perfectly. And I've sent him things even recently, and he'll be like,
oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. Like, there it is.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. But without him, I don't know if I would have been diagnosed, because I had no idea that I was living with this, and it was not fun.
It was years ago.
Yeah.
Was that before Kelly?
Yeah, it was before. It was after we got married.
Yeah.
So we've been together for 20 years. We're about to celebrate our 17th wedding anniversary.
Woo! Congratulations.
And we're still here and smiling.
We haven't killed each other yet.
No, fortunately, he's very, very patient. And I'm, even though my ADHD, especially before I was medicated, tends to be more angry and stuff, I'm never the type to direct it towards people. You know, I'm more a person to go stomp around my room and scream.
The pillows have been yelled at a lot.
Yeah, that's true.
I will say that. And those poor pillows, I mean, the things that they have heard.
Maybe we should get Kitty some wrestling buddies, you know, and
yeah.
Well, we have those big fists. No, I don't want to give you big
the whole fist.
Never mind.
John Cena
Never mind. I'm not going to give her that.
Kitty smash.
But I don't know if you were interested to know like what it was like for him in those early days, because you were a psych student in college.
Yeah. Well,
or you had studied psych in college.
Yeah, I have a psych degree.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, I mean, so when we got married, it wasn't for a few years after we got married that I really started to think about some of the behavior that I observed, that I was like, there's something off, you know, like.
Do you remember any of the?
Well, there are a couple of things, and I can look at it now and I can go, that was a hyper focus at the time.
Like beating?
Like, so she got really into beading and making jewelry and trying to sell it. And like for 6 months, maybe a year.
Me.
And it was like,
it
was like, hey, we've got a few spare dollars. I'm going to go buy some jewelry supplies. And I was like, supportive of it. Cool.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's a hobby. You enjoy it. Why not? But then like, it just grew and grew and grew. And I think we still have some of them, because once it wasn't a hyper focus anymore, it was nothing. It wasn't even a part of her brain.
The idea of beating to me now makes me feel sick to my stomach.
Yeah.
It's too
yeah.
No.
And so so after the fact, I looked at that and I said, where did that even come from? And what happened to it? And I started reading more about ADHD in adulthood, because at the time I was like, oh yeah, ADHD is hyper kids.
Yeah.
You know, oh, that kid had too much Kool-Aid. Look at him bounce around. That's what I thought. And that's even for someone.
That's what I thought too.
I have a bachelor's degree in psychology, and I still came into it with that mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, oh, the anger side of things. Like, for most adults, when something doesn't go your way, you go, oh, that sucks. Mm-hmm. Move on. Right? Mm-hmm. For her, years ago, before diagnosis, before medication, if something didn't go her way, it was like not just, oh, that sucks, move on. It was now, whatever caused this to happen is the bane of my existence, and you're going to hear about it. And I was like,
become nuclear.
I was like, whoa, hey.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about this.
Even when I reflect back on those times, I'm like, oh my gosh, I was very reactive and impulsive. Yeah. So, and I even see on old Facebook posts, sometimes I will delete old comments that I made. I'm like,
why did I say this? Yeah.
So is it something like this? Is like if you take away something Kitty's interested in, it goes like this?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's pretty accurate.
It's really interesting. What you're saying and describing, like I'll get into something, and I think like a lot of creative-minded folks, you'll get into something, and at the time, like your juices, your mojo's flowing, you're in a flow with it, but if you step away from it too long, when you try to go back to it, it's almost stale. But like a lot of folks, it's just I'm not into it. But for someone with your neurodivergence, it's almost like at the time it's almost like a phantom limb, but then if someone takes you away from it, it's like they're cutting off your arm.
Yes.
But then if you step away from it, and then you try to come back to it, it's like you can't reconnect that arm anymore.
It goes from a phantom limb to a forward limb, and your body is now attempting to graft on another arm.
Exactly.
That's
how I feel about beating.
Right. That's her with beating. And now that was
that's just
years
one
and years
example,
ago. But that was one that I was like, all right, let's talk about this. Let's you and I talk about it. And then like I talked to her parents about it. And I approached her.
And they have a very close relationship. So that's very, very nice.
And I approached her and I said, look, I think you may have ADHD. Here are XYZ. We should talk about you going to talk to a doctor about it. Mm-hmm. And I think that first conversation was very resistant.
Oh, yeah.
She was like, I don't have that. That's
stubborn.
That's made up. I don't think she actually said that's made up, but it was very like, I don't want to do that. I'm fine. Everything's fine. I'm okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, let's sit on it for
table it. Yeah.
I am talking.
Yeah, really. It's okay.
Normally I'm the quiet one.
He is. He's just excited.
It's all good. No, please. Absolutely.
And so when we went back to it,
I just sounded very pushy. I'm sorry. People pleaser. See, I'm apologizing.
Yeah, it's all good.
I'm sorry.
But so then we, I talked to her again later on, and I said, hey, even your resistance to it is kind of indicative of having it.
I was in denial too.
Let's talk to the doctor, and so she ended up going to a doctor, and it was maybe 6 months of seeing the doctor, and the doctor talking to me and family and friends of hers, and like full 360
That's
degree.
Right. We had to,
like we all had surveys to fill out and like journals to return to the doctor. And she was like, yeah, she's had this for a long time. It's severe.
Yeah, they told me I'm a severe, there's like 2 types of ADHD and I have both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was with me through all of that. And and there were hard times.
Catch new episodes of Mental Health Mondays every Monday morning at 7 a.m. Start your week off with a smile and some inspiration.